From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report. I'm Tyne Morgan, and here's what we're working on for you over the next hour. A rally with no real fundamental reason. Soybeans break $10, leaving some to explore an acreage shift. A proposed change to how ag retailers store anhydrous ammonia could cut deep.
For us to be updated, we'd have to change out about probably 60 tanks, and we're looking at costing anywhere between $8 to $10 million to do that over time.
Our Farm Journal report looks at how the OSHA rule could impact you. The sky's the limit for ag drones.
I see a huge opportunity for us to gather data.
We're off to Texas to see how this technology is propelling farmers to the future. And in John's world,
growing old on the farm isn't fun, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
U.S. Farm Report, brought to you by the dependable, long-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Now for the news that moved the markets this week, a surprise rally in both corn and soybeans, with soybean prices reaching the highest point since last summer. Soybeans had a fun ride higher this week, flying past the $10 mark Wednesday. Now, while unfavorable weather in portions of South America helped prices, the push was mainly from active fund buying. Economists at the University of Illinois think the price move is buying acres.
I tend to think there will be some modest switching given the price reaction we've had since that report was released. Soybeans are considerably stronger than when the survey was done, and corn prices are steady to a bit weaker than when the farmers were surveyed. So I wouldn't be surprised to see up to 1 million acres perhaps move away from corn to soybeans or perhaps some other crops.
Good also thinks we'll see below trendline yields considering the shift away from El Nino. The rally is despite farmers making nice planting progress across the country. Nationally, 13% of the corn is in the ground, 5 points ahead of average. The biggest progress being made in Missouri, where 58% of the corn is planted. That's 37 points ahead of the average pace. Now, spring wheat planting is also progressing quickly, with 27% of the crop planted. South Dakota farmers are beating the 5-year average by 26 points. But the nation's cotton farmers are a little behind, with 7% of the cotton in the ground, 3 points behind average. Cotton prices rallying this week despite the news that more product could flood the market. China says it plans to open up the floodgates on its massive cotton reserves. The country planning to auction 2 million metric tons of cotton from May through August. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff is one step closer to impeachment. Brazil's lower house passed a motion to impeach her this week. The motion still needs to go in front of the country's Senate. Now, if the majority approves it there, Rousseff will be asked to step down for 180 days to defend herself during the impeachment trial. Rousseff is the country's first female president, taking office in 2010. Mexico is lifting its ban on U.S. poultry exports in every state but Indiana. The ban originally put in place on 14 states due to the outbreak of a highly pathogenic avian flu. Mexico is the largest buyer of U.S. poultry and poultry products since 2010. The latest Sterling Pork Profit Tracker shows margins for farrow to finish operations are about $2 less than a month ago. However, at $4.09 a head, that's about a 70-cent improvement from last week, and much better than the negative $11 that operations saw last year. All right, those are the headlines. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen is in for Mike Hoffman this week. Cindy, some of our southern viewers are hoping your forecast does not include rain.
Well, I wish I could say that, but we certainly do have some rain in the forecast for some of those areas that had so much over the last week. But you know, there are other areas that are getting increasingly dry. Definitely areas that we're watching. The mid-Atlantic states, they're normally dry there, but it's getting a little bit worse as you get into parts of the Central Plains. We're going to keep an eye on that. We did have some rain there in some spots, but again, most of the heavier stuff has been to the south. And of course, we've been watching the west for months. It's going to take a while to get out of that, but I know a lot of producers are a little concerned with the switch to potentially La Nina as we get over the next few months. All right, as we head through this week, we're going to see a storm system affecting folks across the Great Lakes all the way down through the Plains states with some showers and some thunderstorms. And we also have some rain, maybe even some higher elevation snow as you get out into the western states. Very warm in the southeast, and look for some pretty windy conditions in the west. As we head into Wednesday, more rain, especially for some of these same areas. down over towards the mid-Atlantic states, up into the plain states and through the southern plains and central plains as well. We'll see another system approaching the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be moving further to the east on Friday, and then we'll see the tail end of that front still affecting folks along the Gulf Coast states and into the central plains. We're also going to be seeing some wet weather into parts of the northeast, but it looks like pretty nice conditions for most of the Corn Belt. Tyne?
Thanks, Cindy. When we come back, the surprise rally will kick off our marketing discussion. Bob Utterback and Doug Whirling join me right after the.
Every successful grower knows that the best crops need strong roots, and that means they need Radiate Plant Growth Regulator. Radiate features 2 powerful active ingredients that help young crops quickly develop the longer, healthier roots they need for more nutrient uptake, early vigor, and stress resistance. Applied either foliar or in furrow, Radiate makes all the difference for a wide variety of crops. So get the roots your crops need by getting Radiate first. See your CPS dealer today.
Thanks for coming today.
How you doing?
Well, today's going to be pretty easy. I want each of you to grab a 2x8 and cut it. You'll have 2 saws to choose from, a power saw or a hand saw. So which saw did you use?
Power saw. Power saw.
Power saw. You all chose the most powerful tool. Wouldn't it make sense to make the same choice when it comes to your truck?
Absolutely.
This is the 2016 Chevy Silverado. It offers the most powerful engine in its class.
Awesome. I'd say it's the best tool for the job.
Right on.
If you're not using IMI Global's verification programs, you might as well set your money on fire. To give your wieners added value, no program begins without a traceable animal. Then add on BQA and other specialties, and you open up a whole new market for your calves. You might be thinking, the market's so good, why bother? You ever heard of making hay when the sun shines? You got a choice. Get in the game or visit IMIGlobal.com.
New in 2016, the Tomorrow's Top Producer Conference will span 2 days and be held in Nashville, Tennessee. Join us June 16th and 17th with speakers on topics including marketing, risk management, negotiation tips, and succession planning. This event will help young farmers master the skills needed to be successful in today's farming landscape. Speakers include Walt Coleman, NFL referee and Highland Dairy Controller, Mo Russell, Russell Consulting, Brett Olkey, Innovis Agra, and more. Visit tomorrowstopproducer.com for the full agenda and registration information.
Welcome back. Well, we have Bob Utterback of Utterback Marketing and Doug Whirling of Bauer Trading with us this week. A nice little surprise rally. Doug, I'm going to start with you. Why did soybeans push past the $10 mark midweek?
Okay, Tyne. Well, as we were kind of talking off air for soybeans, you know, when you have a market that essentially has been in somewhat sleeping mode, it has been supply-driven oriented, no demand, what to speak. I mean, good demand, solid, but no increases. And we were in healing mode after a sell-off market last year. So, you know, we had been in this trading range for the last 4 to 5 months. We finally got a little bit of change from Brazilian weather, and we got a little pop from that acreage report, and then you just saw things snowball off of that. Fund positions were short, they got wiped out. You know, our export sales have been pretty steady, regardless of what some may think. So, I mean, the demand was always there. Things got stale. People got too negative, the markets for too long, and a known fundamental is a useless fundamental. That's what I've always been taught. So it's the same old thing.
Bob, Friday we saw soybean prices weaken. Do you think that's setting us up next week to trend lower?
No, I think we just removed the excesses of this week. You know, we had, you know, some people are saying between $3 and $6 billion have come into the commodity markets over the last 4 weeks. The tone has remarkably changed in tone, sentiment. So I think we just got too excited midweek. We had over 1 million contracts in the bean contracts trade on Wednesday. That's futures and options.
Is that a record?
It's a record level. So the bull showed his claws this week, and it forewarned the bear that he has to be. So now technique is more important than ever of a process of how you're going to sell, so you can prepare yourself for the emotions of the summer at this point. But no, I think next week will be a transition week where we'll be basically trading, looking for weather and guidance from the weather market.
Doug, considering that we didn't see a lot of fundamentals moving this market higher, you know, usually a lot of this outside money was the cause. Looking longer term, do you think we can continue to rally in soybeans and corn this year?
Okay, so there's going to be two things. And one, when I look at the soybean market, it probably has the best chance with summer weather adversity, and that's just because of where the acreage is and our stocks to use ratio being in the 11-12% range, depending on, you know, what you say your demand factors are that change that. So when you get those under 10%, that changes things. Just a week ago, most analysts were using a 450 million carryout. You know, now they're talking 350, and I've seen the USDA for the last 10 years understate our demand every year. And I actually wrote this down to bring it in so I get it right. This is the best thing for beans over a period of time, no matter what happens with our crop. So China's imports in the month of March were up 36%. Wow. From January to March, they were up almost 4%. Last fall, that wasn't supposed to happen. Now they have, I believe, 1.37 billion people in China. That's up 33.8 million since 2010. The point I'm getting here is they just got rid of their one-child policy last fall. That's a demand base that's still growing. And no matter what the economy is globally, people need to eat, they need protein. So that is a great underneath factor to support markets going forward. And then when you get supply adversity, you'll see these big shifts like we just did.
Doug talked longer term, but Bob, looking short term, when we see this crop progress report come out Monday, we could see some significant progress take place. Does that impact the market at all on Monday?
I think that's why the corn market has dropped 20 cents since midweek, the crop progress. But here, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the weather is wet, so I think we're starting next week not with a lot of further progress. Now, you always hear these bull arguments after the bull has surfaced. Now, the opposite side of the bull argument is, yes, demand, but global debt is at a very difficult rate. So is the debt going to stifle economic growth? And that's going to be the battle. Can we have economic growth? And at the same time, what does the dollar do? Does the United States economy basically remain the strongest economy? Does the dollar firm up as we come into fall? Because the dollar is at the bottom of the trading range. Will the dollar firm as we come into fall? And if we see it, well, it boils down to, if we see a 168 corn yield, we're in trouble. If we see a 48 bean yield, we're in trouble. If we see a 158 corn yield, bullish markets. And if we see a 42, we're bullish. So it's all about weather and the currencies.
Yep, and we'll talk about those currencies more coming up. But real quick, Doug, before we have to take a break, do you think that this rally this week bought any acres?
Like we talked off air, to be honest with you, probably not as much as people may think, because in the Midwest specifically, corn is king. And you know, I've been doing this not as long as Bob, but it just seems if things are good and we get it in a timely fashion, the producer usually plants more corn. So not a big shift yet.
All right, well, we have to talk about this currency war. We'll get into that when we come back on U.S. Farm Report.
U.S. Farm Report, brought to you by Case IH. Be ready with Steiger Quad-Track and Magnum Road-Track tractors from Case IH.
We're at our family farm here near Corning, Iowa. We rent about 5,500 acres.
We started using the Liberty Link system about 5 years ago. The first year we started with about 200 acres. Every year we expanded a little. We're about the same amount of Liberties and Roundups. So, you know, we got an even split, and that way we have, you know, options because we have a little bit of water hemp and some mare's tail that we were starting to see some resistance in. One of our biggest selling factors on the Liberty program was just how clean we could keep our fields.
And as you can see in these Liberty beans behind us, you know, there are just no weeds out here, you know, with our pre-emerge program, with our Liberty program. We've been very happy with our yields on our Liberty Link soybeans. You know, when we look at our field averages from one year to the next, you know, our Liberty soybeans are at the top or near the top every year. So, you know, we're extremely pleased with the yield, and we're extremely pleased with the results of the herbicide in taking care of the weed issues that we have.
The new DR trimmer mowers are here, and they're better than ever. The walk-behind DRs feature world-class engines and easy rolling wheels that let you trim along buildings, decks, and fence lines, mow tall grass and waist-high weeds without tangling, even cut brush up to 3 inches thick with optional cutting attachments. And now there's a full line of tow-behind DR trimmer mowers. Choose from models customized for riding mowers, ATVs, or compact tractors. So turn to DR and get the job done right.
Call 1-800-418-1409 for your free buyer's guide and DVD. We'll include details of our special 36-month financing plan that lets you own a DR for as low as $25 a month. Free shipping is now in effect, so call 1-800-418-1409. Online at drtrimmer.com.
DR is professional power done right.
Welcome back. Well, before the break, Bob was talking about the U.S. dollar. So, Bob, I want to ask you this. Do you think we've put a top in?
I think we made a structural high last year, but I still am concerned that there is some historical analysis I've done still says there's still risk, because I think our economy is stronger than the European economy. I think the Chinese are trying to say that bottom's in, but I've read a lot of position papers about their financial relationships, and they got some real problems over there. So I'm not convinced that there won't be a surge back to the dollar, but I think the extreme high is in. I just don't think it's going to fall apart. Okay. But we have to figure out how we're going to get our currency, our dollar in relationship to Chinese back in balance, so we don't export jobs overseas as much as we've been doing. That's one of the questions, how they do it.
When we look at Brazil and we look at the real there, Dilma Rousseff, could be impeached. We're still waiting to hear exactly what's going to happen. But if she is impeached, Doug, what happens to the real and how does it impact us?
Well, here in the short term, it would probably be somewhat of a positive because of the valuation. So we'll get some export business. And you've seen some of the things going on down there already with, I want to call it a crop scare right now, because that's really what it is. I mean, if weather stays the same, then you get a problem. But you already seen our exports pick up here as of the last week and a half because of worries about that, more so in corn as opposed to soybeans in the near term. But like every day this week, and yes, I am a bull to the market, but I'm seeing the demand to back that up now. And the USDA has us down so much, like 5.3 million on corn for the marketing year. We're already above that. We're narrowing the gap, and we narrowed it more this week. So we're seeing us get some business because of that scare and disruption down there.
Looking at the macro picture, Bob, what concerns you the most?
Global debt and the inability of fiscal policy governmentals to do anything about to be pro-growth orientated. How do we get growth in the United States, Europe, to go at a rate to basically offset the debt? Because I think debt is ingredient. I saw a statistic last year, the consumer debt was growing faster than the GNP. So we're still, globally, we're not getting the pro-growth orientation to pay off the debt. The debt's getting worse. And to me, that is the biggest macro problem. Yes, populations are going up. That's the big demand's big bull. But the problem is you got to have an economy that's strong enough to import and pay for the product to bring in. And that's going to be the battle. And will technology keep up with that demand growth? And that's going to be I think the equation. I think the demand bulls now have shifted in the last 10 days, have gone from despair now to positiveness. Now, can they follow through with their demand positive? Mm-hmm. Now, if you get a little weather, I think that as a bear now, I've gone into a defensive mode. I'm in a put format. I wouldn't want to be short this futures market. I want to be some type of put format rather than net short, because the market for the next, until probably mid-June, early July, I'm at risk, and I know that. So I'm going to let him have fun, but I'm going to also get my revenge later on.
Well, look, even with you saying you're in defensive mode, from being friendly out ahead, I'm still taking a sell and defend strategy. Yep. So, if you're a producer and you like these prices that they've given to you, what are you waiting for? You can take advantage of them in the cash market, defend your positions on the board for something down the road. That way you're not, if everything goes fine and it's August and we don't have La Nina until, later on and prices are lower, you feel a little comfortable.
Right. Yeah, which NOAA did come out this week talking about their summer temperatures and summer precip, and they said we'll be warm but not dry, looking at La Nina maybe past those key summer months.
So there are people out that are fundamental number crunchers saying if we still reduce planted acres from 93.8 down to 91.5, and we have a 168, we still have the threat of 2 billion bushel plus carryover, which is 325 fall corn. So we have to have his demand. We have to see that demand surge. If we can't see that demand surge with my yield, then we really are going to have some problems.
Real quick, only a minute left with this cattle market. As we see some consumers, their disposable income improve a little bit, is that helping beef demand right now?
Well, he talked about his global debt situation. The one positive about the entire thing is energy prices are cheaper now than they've ever been. So the U.S. consumer has more money to spend. And I see is once we come into grilling season, even though there's plenty of pork and chicken out there, you know, I've seen retail beef prices actually increase from one month to the next. So beef is like corn in the U.S. The U.S. consumer likes beef, and I think we'll have a big grilling season that'll help things out.
So you do think cattle prices will improve?
Yes.
All right. Well, we need to get your closing thoughts, so we're going to do that when we come back on U.S. Farm Report. Don't go anywhere.
Attention, catheter patients on Medicare. I'm a professional cowboy, and I use catheters. Been cowboying for 25 years. I've broken 14 bones, had 2 concussions, and a punctured lung. I know pain, and I don't want any more of it, especially when I cath. Now, I use these new nearly painless catheters from Medical Direct Club. They hurt less. Compared to the old ones, these ain't nothing. Here's how it works. You call and you get a free catheter sample. I was just like you, wondering if I should call. Boy, I'm glad I did. Give yourself a break from pain and try these new catheters. You won't know unless you try them. Give them a call now. You have nothing to worry about. They bill Medicare and your insurance company. You pay nothing up front. You get your free, nearly painless catheter sample sent right to your home.
Call 1-800-280-5648. That's 1-800-280-5648. Call now.
Are you paying too much for your cable or satellite TV? The U.S. government passed a bill mandating free over-the-air digital transmission of all broadcast network television channels. That means with the new TV Freeway digital antenna, you can get free HD programming from your favorite broadcast networks 24/7 without a bill. You just plug it into the back of your TV and start watching all of your favorite broadcast programs for free. There are no contracts to sign, no hidden fees, and no monthly fees. Just free HD broadcast TV. Take it with you anywhere. Call or go online now to get your TV Freeway stick for the incredibly low price of only $14.99. But wait, call or click now and you can get a second TV Freeway stick for a second TV. Just pay a separate fee, but you have to order right now.
Call 1-800-316-1198 to get your TV Freeway. Call now or go to tvfreeway.com. So call 1-800-316-1198. Call now.
Welcome back to Markets Now. Time to get closing thoughts. Doug, let's start with you.
Well, when we head in here to next week, I'm going to watch the spreads, see how they trade, because we've taken carry out of the soybean market this past week. I want to see if that holds. And then I also want to watch the corn spreads and see if they continue to narrow and take carry out. That's going to be the key for me about where we go over the next couple of weeks until we get that crop put in the ground. And then I'm also going to be watching the value of the dollar and our export sales and see if they narrow that gap.
All right. Bob?
Farmers want higher prices to pay for the high cash rents. This rally, while it's recovered, is now not going to disincentivize acres not to be planted, and higher prices don't stimulate demand. So while it is positive to the short term, I think you have to start thinking about, hey, the market with carry and spreads, you can lock in some plus $4, even $4.25 or higher for summer of 017 corn prices if you use the spreads. So now you can start paying for those high cash rents. So now's the time to be really getting in prepared to take advantage of any rally between now and summer to basically aggressively lock in your profits.
All right. Thank you both for being here this week. We appreciate it. Stay with us. John Phibbs joins us when we come back.
Join Top Producer Magazine for tomorrow's Top Producer Seminar in Nashville, Tennessee this year. To learn how you can push farming forward and register, visit tomorrowstopproducer.com.
Tommy, I'm a little disappointed. The yields weren't there and the prices are low. We need to sell at a good price. What do you advise?
Hi, it's Tommy Grisafi, and I would like to visit you at your farm to discuss strategies and risk management solutions that best fit your farm's interest. Call me at 855-737-FARM, and I will personally visit you at your farm. Experience solid market advice right on the farm.
Can't get weeds off your mind? You need the powerful weed control of Liberty herbicide on Liberty Link crops. Together, Liberty Link and Liberty provide outstanding yields. Liberty herbicide, now at a new, lower price. See your local retailer for details.
We know who made that hitch. We know who cut the steel, who milled the ball, and who welded the seams. We know who tested, measured, and checked. We even know who thought the whole thing up. We're B&W, and we know your hitch. Because we don't make them halfway around the world. We make them all right here. B&W. Trusted.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay. Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deals.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Call 800-747-2351, 800-747-2351.
Well, for many of you, farming and ranching is the only job you've ever known. And thanks to technology, you can farm or ranch as long as your heart desires. John has more.
Over the last few years on our farm, we've been making small but powerful upgrades to much of our equipment. Our latest effort is to improve the grain trucks we use. We've added electric tarp drives, grain gates, and hoist controls. Now, these aren't particularly new, but they just now got into our price range. These gadgets could be seen as somewhat frivolous. After all, how hard is it to roll the tarp up or open the gate when dumping? For those of you of tender years, a note of caution. Your answer to that question will change as the decades pass by. Since Jan and I still do a lot of farming, even small improvements in the ease of operations is a bigger deal than I ever imagined. Not having to wrestle with a tarp on a windy day at the elevator is a relief to Jan. Now add in a touch of arthritis and declining stamina, and these small upgrades are a big deal at the end of our day. We've seen the same thing happen with auto steer and bulk seed handling, or any of the dozens of inventions that lower the effort required to operate farm machinery. But it's important to also recognize that some of the implications of this technology might be gadgets like this are extending the careers of senior farmers, like Jan and me. We hope to actively contribute for several more years, and things like this really help. But since we aren't quitting, it means there's no hole for a younger farmer to fill. One of the biggest reasons farmers used to retire was because the work became physically too demanding for their declining ability. As we stretch our working life, we also delay the entry of younger producers. This ripple effect could become more pronounced as older farmers see retirement as less financially possible, and even more assists like this become available. Remember, the main contribution of younger farmers is strength and stamina, the market for which has become somewhat smaller than it used to be. As more of us are active into our 70s and beyond, thanks to medicine and technology like this, it could be that farming careers will start later and last longer than we can even imagine. Ag is one profession where age is not the handicap it used to be.
Thanks, John. Well, up next, a change in anhydrous ammonia storage could cost millions. That's our Farm Journal report after the break.
U.S. Farm Report is produced and distributed by Farm Journal Broadcast. From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. We have much more ahead over the next 30 minutes. It's a storage war between ag retailers and OSHA. We'll break down possible changes to the way anhydrous ammonia is stored and how it could impact you. Ag drones are taking agriculture to new heights. We're off to Texas to see why the sky's the limit for the future of ag. And in customer support, John Phipps breaks down what the phrase prevent plant really means. Now, for the headlines as the rural economy continues to feel the squeeze from a weak energy market and lower commodity prices. CHS Capital says they're still seeing requests for additional operating loans later in the year than normal, and that's as more banks pull back on financing agriculture. Creighton University's Ernie Goss says the latest rural Main Street Index remains below growth neutral for the 7th consecutive month. The index is based on a survey of rural bankers. Goss says banks are now restructuring, with some estimating loan defaults increasing to 5%. But he says despite the bad news, the situation in rural America is looking a little better.
This is a survey just completed for March. Shows a rural economy that's at least stabilizing now, still weak, but at least I think we're poised for growth, but we're not going to get that growth right now. I think 2016 is still going to be a little bit challenging.
Goss also thinks land prices could fall another 6 to 7% this year. Rural poverty is becoming an even greater issue across rural America. U.S. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack saying during a Farm Foundation forum in Washington this week that poverty is far-reaching and only becoming worse. He also pointed out that rural areas feel poverty to a greater degree than urban. But Vilsack also hit on the topic of suicide. He says it's a function of many issues, but for white males, the rate is higher in rural areas than urban. One crop battling a devastating disease is citrus. Florida citrus growers now say 80% of the state's trees are infected with citrus greening. That's according to a new University of Florida survey. The survey conducted in March of last year is the first grower-based estimates. Citrus greening wipes out the crop, with growers saying greening reduces yield by 40%. Costco announcing it plans to build a state-of-the-art poultry processing facility. The $180 million investment is planned for Fremont, Nebraska, and would create 1,100 new jobs. Costco says when running, the company will purchase 300,000 bushels of corn and 3,000 tons of soybean meal a week from local providers. One of the nation's largest egg producers is stepping up its efforts to meet the growing demand for cage-free. Iowa-based Rembrandt Foods says it's building a new cage-free farm in eastern South Dakota. That one farm will house 3 million egg-laying hens. Construction is expected to begin this year and should be finished by next year. It's partially good news for some California farmers. The State Water Project bumping up water allocation to 60% of requests. Now this allocation was just 10% in January. That's as runoff from spring storms continue to boost state's reservoirs. But the drought is far from over, as farmers in the San Joaquin Valley in Southern California haven't seen as much rain and reservoir storage remains low. Some communities even seeing wells go dry. Growers in California are battling more than just weather this year. Now nut farmers are on high alert for theft. New reports say sophisticated criminal organizations are stealing identities and falsifying paperwork to pose as truck drivers and then making off with full loads of almonds, walnuts, and pistachios. Some of those shipments worth $150,000 to $500,000. The industry is meeting with law enforcement, hoping to stem the massive losses. All right, that's it for the news. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen is filling in for Mike Hoffman this week. She has our longer range forecast. So Cindy, how's moisture panning out?
Well, Ty, that depends on where you are. Let's start off with the jet stream, though, and take a look at the week ahead of us. We're going to see a trough moving through the northwestern United States, while we have some nice warm temperatures starting to come up into much of the eastern half of the country. But we're going to see a couple of storms that are going to be moving through as we see a couple of little troughs there. Eventually, everyone's going to start to warm up a little bit as we get into the weekend. Now, as far as the 30-day temperatures go, we're looking at above normal for most of the eastern half of the country, along the northern tier of states and into the western United States. Looks like the only real cool spot expected is in Texas and into northeastern Mexico. Here's the 30-day precipitation. I know this is the big one a lot of folks are watching. Looks like wetter weather along the southeastern coast, the Gulf Coast, as well as the central and southern plains and off into parts of the west. Looks like drier conditions as we get into the Great Lakes and parts of the eastern Corn Belt. Tyne?
Thanks, Cindy. A potential national rule change by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, could revise the way retailers store and handle anhydrous ammonia. Congress put a rider in the 2016 Omnibus Appropriations Bill instructing OSHA from requiring retailers to adopt stricter handling and storing standards. Because of that, OSHA says they will not enforce stricter rules until a new fiscal year starts this fall. Betsy Gibbon has this week's Farm Journal report.
Nebraska farmer John Olerking is not sure if the way he fertilizes his crop today will be the same next year.
I've been sitting in the tractor wondering what I need to do for this fall or for next spring and how to prepare.
That's because OSHA is planning to change the rules governing the storing and handling of anhydrous ammonia. Currently, ag retailers have an exemption to OSHA's safety standards for handling highly hazardous chemicals, but that may change. OSHA says it changed its interpretation of the type of facility that fits in the retail description, saying facilities that store and distribute large quantities of highly hazardous chemicals are not retailers. Instead, putting some of them under the agricultural merchant wholesaler banner, which would require new safety measures put in place. They estimate these facilities will have to make roughly $2,100 in changes in order to comply. Not everyone agrees with their estimate.
The cost factor will be horrendous. It'll be, you can save $4, $5, $6 million, but I believe I'm on the low side.
Randy Robeson says Frontier Co-op has 25 locations in Nebraska, supplying 16,000 tons of anhydrous ammonia. Robeson estimates he will have to double the size of both this liquid and dry fertilizer storage if he has to handle less anhydrous.
Well, most likely we'll get out of the business or handle less.
Ron Velder is president and CEO of Farmers Cooperative. In Nebraska, they supply roughly 53,000 tons of anhydrous a year. He says he will keep supplying. The co-op has already made investments in an anhydrous ammonia plant.
For us to be updated, we'd have to change out about probably 60 tanks, and we're looking at cost anywhere between $8 to $10 million to do that over time.
Part of that cost includes adapting the standards. For some, that's added training, documentation, changing out equipment, including storage tanks and piping.
One of my managers told me it would take 6 months to get one new tank with the appropriate data label on it, and that's just one tank.
Robeson, Velder, and Weber say a fall switch is not feasible for relying on transportation and building new storage.
If it's going to happen over time, well, then let's give us some time that we can adapt. It's not 6 months. It's going to have to be, maybe 3 to 5 year type situation.
OSHA says it's given businesses since last July to comply and has been open about the process, stating it has met with industry groups, employers, performed outreach at the local level, and offered compliance assistance when needed. But those like Olerking say if changes are made to the cheapest form of fertilizer, it's a lot of red tape in the tractor during a time of lower farm income.
To have this kind of an impact put on us that could be as close as up to $30 or more an acre, we just can't sustain that right now.
Reporting for U.S. Farm Report, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Thanks, Betsy. Weber says Congress has control of this decision and that the wording in the 2017 omnibus bill could make or break OSHA's conclusion. Up next, John Phipps.
Get the roots your crops need by getting Radiate first. Visit lovelandproducts.com/radiate. See your CPS dealer today.
We're all aware of catastrophic storms that can knock out power to millions. Powerful storms and high winds that bring down power lines. Even rolling blackouts caused by our nation's faltering electrical grid.
So how can you protect your home and family from all these uncertainties?
The answer is a home standby generator from Generac. It stands guard, ready to automatically supply power to your home within seconds of a power outage. For a free buyer's guide and DVD all about Generac home backup power, call 1-800-731-0399. You'll learn all about automatic home generators starting at just $18.99. Online at freegeneratorguide.com.
It's one of the best investments I've ever made in this house.
It gives you security, it's reliable.
That gives you that feeling of security that, to me, is priceless.
Call now for a limited time bonus offer worth $495. That's 1-800-731-0399.
Introducing the all-new DR Leaf and Lawn Vacuum, now at our lowest price ever. The DR cleans up acres of leaves and grass while you mow. In the spring, collect dead grass, wet leaves, and twigs from storm damage. Come summer, the DR makes a great high-capacity bagger, and in the fall, turns days of raking into a drive in the park. When it's time to unload, nothing could be easier. Look, just one hand. Plus, with the collector top removed, you've got a rugged utility cart that's great for all kinds of hauling chores. The DR is the most powerful, most versatile lawn machine you can buy.
Call 1-800-460-3185 for your free buyer's guide and DVD. Learn how you can own a DR for as low as $37 a month and get a 6-month product trial. Free shipping is now in effect, so call 1-800-460-3185. Online at drleafvac.com.
Your call is very important to us. Please hold.
While farmers in the South are underwater, we haven't heard a lot about Prevent Plant just yet. But a viewer wants John to explain what the phrase really means. John?
Okay, this week we have an Ag-splainer about what Prevent Plant means. I hear the phrase Prevent Plant, but only can guess the meaning. What is the real meaning? And that's from Ken Smith. Now send me an address, Ken, please. Prevent Plant acres are a function of crop insurance program. A large majority of farmers of the major crops use crop insurance, so the phrase to us is familiar, but here's a simplified explanation. Crop insurance, like all insurance, requires reasonable action by the insureds. In other words, you can't wait until July to get around to plant your corn and then get a payment because your yields were terrible. There are some key dates. For example, for Iowa, May 31st is the last date to plant a corn crop and receive full coverage. After that date, the coverage for a revenue policy that promises to guarantee an income of $500 per acre, for example, begins to decline daily. After June 25th, in this example, the insurance guarantee would be 60% or $300 per acre, which remains the minimum payment. The producer has 3 choices after May 31 if weather has made it impossible to plant. He can continue to try to plant, but with declining lower insurance coverage. He can decide to abandon the acres and simply receive the 60% payment and plant a cover crop. The catch here is the farmer probably already has invested in fertilizer, rent, and other inputs, so this payment represents a considerable loss, but better than nothing. He can also plant a second crop like soybeans, which gets too complicated to go into right now. Those acres not planted to the intended crop are called prevented planting acres, and here's why it matters. The markets use the March 31st intended acres report to estimate what crop production will be that year. On June 30th, there's another survey of what actually got planted. Between those dates, farmers and buyers are guessing how many acres were diverted into prevented planting. If 3 million acres, for example, can't get planted, the carryover difference is 500 million bushels, enough to move the markets considerably for corn. This is why we obsess about prevent plant acres for 3 months and even afterwards, especially in years with wet planting seasons. Now, all this is greatly simplified, but I hope it helps.
Thanks, John. Well, you can email us your questions or comments. You can also reach us on Facebook or Twitter. Up next, while regulations on drones are still sticky, for some in agriculture, it's already propelling their operation to new heights. We're off to Texas next.
We earn our living from the earth. We trust in our equipment to help us work harder, farm smarter, and add to our bottom line. From prepping, planting, and harvesting, to hauling, leveling, and more. Kubota's ag lineup was built for field and farm. We are Kubota. This is what we do.
Thanks for coming today.
How you doing?
Well, today's going to be pretty easy. I want each of you to grab a 2x8 and cut it. You'll have 2 saws to choose from, a power saw or a hand saw. So which saw did you use?
Power saw. Power saw.
Power saw. You all chose the most powerful tool. Wouldn't it make sense to make the same choice when it comes to your truck?
Absolutely.
This is the 2016 Chevy Silverado. It offers the most powerful engine in its class.
Awesome. I'd say it's the best tool for the job. Right on.
Once you cut a tree down, what do you do about the stump?
Grind it down with a DR stump grinder, the fast, easy, and affordable solution for stump removal. Thanks to the power of a world-class engine and carbide-tipped cutting teeth, the DR stump grinder tackles any size stump. With each pass, these teeth quickly shave the stump down, taking a remarkable 360 bites per second. In no time, the stump is completely gone. All that's left behind is a pile of wood chips. Get behind the power of a DR stump grinder to rid your property of tree stumps forever.
Call 1-800-515-4765 for your free buyer's guide and DVD. Learn how you can try a DR stump grinder for 6 months. With our special financing plan, you can own a DR for as low as $42 a month. Plus, get free shipping if you call now. 1-800-515-4765. Online at drstumpgrinder.com.
Just this week, the U.S. Senate passed a measure deeming the Federal Aviation Administration the nation's drone regulator. That means any state or local drone laws are void. Despite unclear regulations, more and more farmers are exploring ag drones. Whether it's to check cattle or explore crop health midsummer, Ed Wolf with the Texas Farm Bureau shows us why for some, the sky is the limit.
Farmers are looking to the sky. Unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, more commonly called drones, are another step in agricultural technology. There are a lot of questions and much excitement. Right now, the sky's the limit.
Initially, I'm hoping that whenever we have a sprinkler stop in the middle of the growing season, instead of having to wade out through the mud, carrying different tools and parts, we can fly the drone overhead, look and see if it's mechanical or if it might be electrical.
That's just one of the possibilities drones bring to the farm. Farmers like Garrett are beginning to buy them, fly them, and discover how they can be useful. These farmers and ranchers are on the cutting edge, wading through the hype to see how UAVs can help right now.
I see a huge opportunity for us to gather data. Now, I don't know exactly what data that's going to be yet. I plan on using it to scout my fields and help with water control in the spring. So for now, I'm kind of exploring the possibilities to see how I can fit it into my operation.
Imaging is the main use at the moment, mainly video and still pictures, giving farmers a perspective they've never had or was hard to get, and at a higher resolution and less expense, allowing them to see anomalies in their fields and understand their crops like never before.
You might see at one location the field, the crop looks really good, and another location in the field the crop doesn't look so good. And he can go out then physically based on the GPS location and determine what the issues are at those locations in the field.
Researchers like Dr. Thomason are pushing boundaries, seeing what the technology can do and what it may do in the future. Texas A&M and AgriLife Research have a statewide research project with the Texas Engineering Experiment Station. Engineers and agriculturalists across the state working together to see how drones can benefit agriculture, both today and tomorrow.
And ultimately, what we're trying to do is enable farmers to have the information to make excellent decisions, optimal decisions, if you will, about every acre or about every potentially even plant in the field.
Every image contains GPS information, allowing the image data to be stitched together into large-scale maps. Maps that can look at the entire field and zoom all the way into individual plants.
In theory, with these UAVs, especially these small ones, you could fly it, every hour if you needed to, every day or every week. So it's that ability to repeat and continually map the area over time is the real power in this technology, and looking at how plants and crops are changing and growing.
Dr. Sterick is using a fixed-wing drone. Other researchers and engineers are using rotary UAVs. Fixed wings can fly higher, making them better for covering large areas. Rotary drones are perfect for hovering over particular plants, giving more detailed data.
We can do different things. We can actually measure the height of the plants and their growth rates. We can put cameras with different what's called multispectral sensors. So maybe they look in the visible where our eyes can see, but we can also look in the near infrared where my eyes or our eyes can't see that. And that gives us different information about the crops, particularly their health.
Researchers are collecting tremendous amounts of data. One of the challenges right now is what to do with that data after it's captured, specifically how to process and package it so it's useful to the farmer. But the biggest hurdle for growers right now is the regulations. All drones must be registered with the FAA, and owners may only fly them for hobby or recreational use. The FAA is expected to release commercial use rules this summer. There are many visions about what the future holds. Researchers and farmers are just scratching the surface. To say drones will be revolutionary to agriculture is an understatement. The technology is here to stay and will take agriculture to new heights. With the Texas Farm Bureau, Ed Wolf, Lockney.
Thanks so much, Ed. Well, when we come back, Tractor Tales and our Country Church Salute.
We're at our family farm here near Corning, Iowa. We rent about 5,500 acres.
We started using the Liberty Link system about 5 years ago. The first year we started with about 200 acres. Every year we expanded a little. We're about the same amount of Liberties and Roundups. So we got an even split, and that way we have options because we have a little bit of water hemp and some mare's tail that we were starting to see some resistance in. One of our biggest selling factors on the Liberty program was just how clean we could keep our fields.
And as you can see in these Liberty beans behind us, you know, there are just no weeds out here, you know, with our pre-emerge program, with our Liberty program. We've been very happy with our yields on our Liberty Link soybeans. You know, when we look at our field averages from one year to the next, you know, our Liberty soybeans are at the top or near the top every year. So, you know, we're extremely pleased with the yield, and we're extremely pleased with the results of the herbicide in taking care of the weed issues that we have.
The new DR trimmer mowers are here, and they're better than ever. The walk-behind DRs feature world-class engines and easy rolling wheels that let you trim along buildings, decks, and fence lines, mow tall grass and waist-high weeds without tangling, even cut brush up to 3 inches thick with optional cutting attachments. And now there's a full line of tow-behind DR trimmer mowers. Choose from models customized for riding mowers, ATVs, or compact tractors. So turn to DR and get the job done right.
Call 1-800-418-1409 for your free buyer's guide and DVD. We'll include details of our special 36-month financing plan that lets you own a DR for as low as $25 a month. Free shipping is now in effect, so call 1-800-418-1409. Online at drtrimmer.com.
DR is professional power done right.
Welcome back. Tractor Tales this week takes us out to Missouri for a classic red. Now this Farmall was a Brand family tractor for many years, and Richard Brand tells us his sons learned how to drive on this Super M.
These old tractors draw a lot of attention. Setting on a Super M, it's 1954. It was the last M that International made. It's kind of a family tractor. This tractor has been on this farm probably 30 years, and before that it was on Lois's dad's place 8 or 10 years. He traded it off and we went and bought it because it was a good tractor. We used it quite a little bit after we first bought it. It's kind of like me, it's just part-time. No, we don't use it seldom, but might use it to pull in wagons with, but mostly we've taken it to several shows, and when the tractor cruise was running, we took it on the tractor cruise a couple, 3 times. There'll be comments, well, my dad had one like that, or my grandpa had one like that. Best International tractor they ever made, you know. They liked these Super M's. The time we had it and used it, we used it pretty hard. We ground feed with it and pulled in wagons from the field with it. And like I say, it was just a good, dependable tractor. And when we were trying to clean up tractors, getting ready for you, why, I knew that this tractor wouldn't be hard to get started and running. It's just a good, dependable old tractor. It was when we were using it, and it's just likable.
Today's Country Church Salute goes to the Faith Lutheran Church in Palermo, North Dakota. In 1963, the local First Lutheran and Trinity Lutheran churches decided to join forces, and in 1967, they formally moved into the same church home. The church still celebrates its original anniversaries, going strong for more than 100 years. Our thanks to Iva Fox for sharing their story. And as always, we want to learn about your home church as well. Salutes can be sent to the address on the screen. Stay with us. Crop Watch is next.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by the BV Series Round Baler from Kubota. For Earth, for life.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Which genetics work best in your conditions? How do you optimize nutrition levels? Can you get more from your crop protection? How does data improve each of your acres? With every question, there is an opportunity for growth. Because the right answers can help bring it all together.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Hi, Tom Parent here for DR Power Equipment. Is your driveway a bumpy road full of potholes, washboard, and ruts? Well, for lots of folks that live in the country, this is a normal ride. But it doesn't have to be this way. Not when you own a DR Power Grader, now available at a new low price. Tow the Power Grader behind your riding mower, utility tractor, or ATV. With each pass, the Power Grader loosens, redistributes, and levels surface materials. Potholes and ruts are filled in, washboard is smoothed out, and your resurfaced driveway is ready to roll.
Call 1-800-708-5320 for your free buyer's guide and DVD. You'll learn how you can own a DR Power Grader for as little as $799.99. Free shipping is now in effect, and with our 6-month at-home trial, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call 1-800-708-5320. Online at drpowergrader.com.
Welcome back. Widespread rains caused massive flooding for our viewers in Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana this week. Such a sad situation. It was also frustrating for many farmers. Aaron farms about an hour south of Waco, and this is what your fields look like after 8.5 inches of rain in just 7 hours. Both of those fields are already replants of both corn and cotton. On Twitter, he said he's giving up. He also said it looks a lot like last year when Texas farmers had rains that wiped out much of their crop. But other areas had a nice window to plant this week, including in Kentucky. Quint says they really got rolling last week. It was going good into the ground, really nice, until about midweek this week. He said that's when the ground started to harden up. Well, Corey Myers was busy planting in Indiana, and it was a family affair, but apparently it was hard work for his 4-year-old daughter, Colby. As you can see here, she's taken a little snooze in the tractor. That looks so nice. He posted the picture on Twitter saying he was extremely jealous of his daughter. That's because Corey's been busy. He says all the corn was planted by Wednesday of this week, and he's working on getting the soybeans planted now. And to end with some cool drone footage, Josh Munkoff captured this along the Missouri River bottoms in northwest Missouri. He says most farmers are finished planting corn in that area, with some even starting to work on getting soybeans seeded. Some really neat shots there, Josh. Thanks so much for capturing all that. And I know you guys are busy out there planting right now. And so if you are, send us your pictures or your videos. You can do that by sending them to mailbag@usfarmreport.com or check us out on Facebook and Twitter. For all of us at US Farm Report, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to join us again right here next week as we work to build on our tradition. Have a great weekend, everyone, and be safe in the field.
High-strength steel for high-strength dependability. Chevy Silverado, the official news-gathering vehicle of U.S. Farm Report. U.S. Farm Report is produced and distributed by Farm Journal Broadcast.